The point is the lengths Trump was going to try to get to the Capitol to meet up with his armed supporters to finish the violent coup and insurrection. That's the point. This is a portrait of an autocrat clinging to power in his last days in office, trying to physically join the armed insurrection, and then being physically stopped by his own Secret Service agents. That's damning. And this casts his original call for that wild gathering in a more sinister light. Remember, many people were surprised by how effective the storming of the Capitol was in those first hours when it unfolded. And you had all those members of Congress on the run. They were running because it was such a fast breach, which brings me to some material that's not in today's report, but I want to show you because you had, remember, members of Congress on the run for their lives. And in the moment, this was perceived as total shock. Longtime Capitol Hill veterans and independent reporters couldn't believe how swiftly these supposedly random visitors just showed up one day and invaded the Capitol. It had to have some planning and intent.
I've just simply never seen anything like this, not just the breaching of the barricades, but the actual climbing onto the Capitol building.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we are televising the breach,
listen,
by the way.
That was just how it was playing in the first few moments. I mean, people didn't know what was to come. Now, everyone was surprised because those people, those Trump fans, many of them now convicts, had the element of surprise. And why am I telling you this tonight amidst all of this and the new report excerpts? Because the report's evidence shows that was all on purpose, with help from the inside in advance, with Trump personally involved in keeping secret his intent to go to the Capitol. Here's a new passage about Trump himself planning to get people to march. Days ahead, January 2nd, Representative Jim Jordan leading a conference call for Trump and members of Congress discussing how to encourage people to march to the Capitol on the 6th. This was 4 days before the public reaction I just shared for you, which was during the march and the breach. So during that time, Trump was 100% on board with the attackers. He sided with them in that damning call to Kevin McCarthy, who was sheltering in place to hide from the Trump fans who might want to injure or kill him. And today, in this new material, we learn McCarthy seemed very scared for his life, according to Jared Kushner, who spoke to him in those moments. And in those moments, Trump sided with the criminals, telling McCarthy in real time, the people are more angry about this than you are, rather than calling them off. Now, again, this is new. I've heard from some people today, not all of it's new. Well, sure. I mean, this was an insurrection that played out on live TV. But some of the details and stitching it all together is new. Trump making that sinister remark during the crime spree. And now the committee is putting that evidence together with the other evidence that he not only intended it in advance, premeditated criminal, but continued conspiring with the convicted seditionists as it went on to sabotage the certification. I mean, some of this, sure, it can run together in kind of a shocking muddle, but the legal point is not that Trump's stance towards the possible murder of McCarthy and Pence and Pelosi was immoral or disgusting, which it was. No, the point is that he intended the outcome. It's not about bad judgment or him being tasteless. It's the requisite ingredients for an indictable felony. So if DOJ was making this case to jurors, prosecutors would contrast, say, the shock of all these professionals, from the Capitol Police to the leaders of both parties to nonpartisan reporters to Donald Trump. He wasn't shocked at all because he'd been planning this, and he planned to march there, and he planned to have those other people march there, and he kept it secret, which is incriminating, just like in the Mueller probe when he kept other meddling secret because he knew it was incriminating because he has experience hiding evidence of crimes. Again, just real quick, here was one of those reporters in real time on the 6th.
I've just simply never seen anything like this, not just the breaching of the barricades, but the actual climbing onto the Capitol building.
And that was 2 p.m. before a lot of the worst stuff went down. No one had seen anything like it. But seen is a funny word. No one had ever seen it happen, to be sure. But the evidence shows Donald Trump had envisioned it. The militias envisioned it. They had seen it in their mind because this is what they planned. And in the law, that is way, way worse criminally than just something getting out of control. We've already seen sedition convictions. You can't get them without premeditation. There's no improv sedition. This ain't jazz. They showed up to break the law. The seditionists, some of them convicted, have trials that are now cited in the new report today. Many have pled guilty, some cooperating. To paraphrase another mindset about thuggish activity, you hate the law, break it, I don't care, but when you get caught, remember that I don't care. Well, many of these people don't care on their way in or out. That aphorism, by the way, from a song called Super Thug, which is how this report makes Donald Trump look. Oh, I don't care about the law. And I don't care what you do after you get caught. Well, a lot of people got caught. What's happening today is the Congress directly saying to the nation and the DOJ, is this it? Do you really stop with all these people in pawns and foot soldiers and muscle, but not the rest? Now, again, I'm trying to summarize a lot of highlights for you. I want to go into some of the illegal parts that are separate from the violent insurrection. That's also new today. Trump wanted Pence to delay the certification, and they pushed that elector fraud plot, which the committee says even involved the campaign trying to fly fake certificates from Wisconsin, which weren't even properly delivered, to get to Washington. So that didn't work out from that one state, which may explain why a Wisconsin senator's staff was still trying to wave around these fraudulent electors for Pence, even as he was arriving. We set this up here to do the comparison. Pence's aide replying, no, don't give that to him. And the serious can also mix with the absurd. When I was making my way through this report, I had to kind of do a double take at the fact that we're learning Trump's campaign manager thought Rudy Giuliani was so unhinged in those last final days that he locked Giuliani out of his office, testifying, I had my assistant lock the door, and Giuliani still tried to get in my office, trying to order her to unlock the door, which she wouldn't do. Now, that doesn't mean anyone's going to jail over that detail, but it shows you the state of play. Usually you want your lawyers involved in things. Here they're being locked out with the assumption they'll try to break in, which, according to Steppi and Giuliani, did. Now, as for the priorities, there's over 900 indictments so far from the federal probe. It's not like they haven't been doing anything over at DOJ. There's over 500 convictions. And that may deter others from doing what we saw on the ground, but none of it Trump or his inner circle. If you remember one thing from the summary here, you say, okay, Ari did the reading, he shared some details, there was a lot. If you remember one thing, remember this, because it may or may not save our democracy. The key difference tonight between this January 6th committee and the Garland Justice Department is that committee leaders are saying in public, it is past time to get beyond the muscle and the foot soldiers and the people who, however culpable, were there because an incumbent president lied to them and got them to go there. No, it's time to go beyond them and hold the plotters and the leaders accountable.
Ours is not a system of justice where foot soldiers go to jail and the masterminds and ringleaders get a free pass.
Ringleaders. According to the Congress, and all these people are legally presumed innocent if they are charged, but according to the Congress today, and some of these names are new, these are your ringleaders. Giuliani, you heard about. Meadows, of course, he was in and out of every text message. Eastman, the coup lawyer, who admitted in writing, which means he's a pretty bad lawyer, that he knew his plans were illegal, but he pushed forward anyway. Criminal mindset. Jeffrey Clark, who we know is under investigation because his home has already been searched, and Mr. Chesborough. The ringleaders around Donald Trump, on the hook for what Congress calls some of these clear felonies. Now, that's a historic night in Congress. Indeed, this is one of those markers where if further action comes, they're going to date it to tonight. And if action doesn't come, they're going to say it was put on paper, it was put out in public. The DOJ facing the ultimate question, do you indict a former president when Congress throws the kitchen sink at him with this much evidence? Now, final thought before I bring in our experts. You might say, deep breath, all right, it's a lot, but you've heard it, you're familiar, you follow the news, and you're in the mood to get an actual indictment and a trial. Show me that, Ari, or move on. I get it. That's a feeling. I say that based on reporting because I've heard that from some viewers. All I can tell you is that's not how the system works. That's just not it. There's the development of evidence and material. With crimes against the government is then partially a victim, in the case of the Congress, certainly the Capitol Police, as well as a witness. What were they trying to do? And someone can explain it away and say, no, they were never really going to submit the electoral fraud material, and Congress weighs in, and the DOJ decides, no, it wasn't real. Okay. But right here, you have a lot of members of Congress saying, no, they did. We have it in writing. They came in here and tried to commit massive fraud to steal the election on the floor of Congress, with Vice President Pence just saying, no, don't give it to me. Big decision here for Attorney General Garland. And I'll tell you one thing. It didn't get any easier tonight because there's overwhelming evidence to do that which no DOJ has ever done. Potentially, based on evidence in a nonpartisan manner, indict a former president for trying to end American democracy.